Hey guys. Ooh, that's loud. Hold on a second. I don't know what's. 1 second. Can you hear that? There's something on here that's very loud. No idea what. Oh, I see. There we go. Can you guys hear me? All right. Go into the comments. See if you guys can hear me. Happy Wednesday, by the way. Yes, great, Earthel. Earthel, when you could hear me, did you hear some commercial really loud too, or was that just in my ear? Because I noticed that sometimes if you have a YouTube tab on your screen, it just starts playing, and you're not even in the tab or anything. It's very strange. Very intrusive. 5 by 5. That's good, Papa. I hope you guys are all great. Definitely feeling better this Wednesday than last Wednesday. So that's good. I'm back in Stroudsburg. Tasha's in the house. Hi. Let's see where we're at. Looks like a bunch of you are here. Tanny Lewis. Am I getting that right? If I'm butchering it, Tanny, just let me know. Did you know I have the same last name? Yes, I do. My birth name is Joy, and I never actually changed it on my papers, but my married name is Lewis. Spelled the same way. All right, so we got George Graham in the house also, and Tanny is a new member. Thank you, Tanny. I really appreciate that. And so do some of the many people that were able to bring on board. It's not a huge number, but it's 2 or 3 times more than it used to be. So it's small to not so small, right? Okay, so we got George in the house from Punta Gorda, Florida. Always. What was that noise? Papa's place is in the house. Papa says he's watching me on PC and phone to raise viewer watch. That's pretty funny. That's very sweet. I'm just going to say hi to her. Deanna's in the house. Miss Patient Deanna, the lady of patience. Kathy Clayton's in the house. Earth One is in the house. QB Dreams is in the house. Who do we got? Rain Gal 7. I don't know if we've met Rain Gal from Tacoma, Washington. Half Pint. Hi there, Half Pint. Good to see you. ENS is in the house. Happy Wednesday to you too. Diana Gillespie's in the house from Ohio. We usually have an Ohio person or two on Wednesdays. Okay. Let's see where we're at. Before we start, I was going to tell you guys. So sometimes when we try to sign up to be the lawyer in someone's already existing case, not that it can't happen when you come on initial either, but the SSA field office is really very, this has been going on several years. 4, maybe. It didn't seem to be so bad before that, but so maybe about 4 years. There's huge delays in processing the attorney representation forms, but then there's a second step, which is connecting the attorney to the ERA, Electronic Records Express, for the claimant. That's supposed to happen pretty much at the same time, but maybe not by the same person. I kind of think they should make it be the same person, because then something might not get dropped and you're shuffling it off to the next person. So I've had a few cases where it's been a few months and I'm not connected to the electronic file. And it's bad enough when that is an initial claim that I'm involved in from the initial, but it's far worse if I'm coming in midway because I haven't even had familiarity with the case. So it's driving me crazy when it happens. Sometimes it's lickety split. I'm going to start just giving a shout out to the agencies, the field offices that are doing a good job, and a little to those that are. Oops, sorry, babe. And hello, and yeah, hello. She's preening. So in this case, we filed in early March representation papers on an existing case, and I think the person might have just appealed, maybe. And we're still not connected. So now we're talking 6 weeks. 6 weeks is not, given how lengthy things are, that wouldn't like be panic button for a case you're just starting. But for a case that's already chugging along and they're heading towards the next determination, in this case, it might be a hearing, I think. I need to get a tissue. Oh my goodness. Oh, a better one. You won't have to use a tissue, but I'm going to. So after I send like 3 reminders, like, please process these, connect me to the electronic file, blah, blah, blah. Then I asked the client to make a phone call to the field office. So the client did, and they told her, well, they said, oh yeah, I see we got the blah, blah, blah submission, 4/16, which was the most recent, the 3rd. And then said it's being handled by someone, I think it was, well, I'm not going to say the name, but some fellow. And we don't see that you have a hearing date, so within the next 30 days. So just expect it within 30 days. Really, that is inadequate for me. I have just prepared, it's going to be a commonly used scathing letter, if it's gone on this long. Anyone else? Usually I just do them ad hoc, but now I'm just going to do, so I don't have to keep repeating myself. It is pretty scathing. And I also CC at the bottom the congressperson. So I will wait like several days before I send it to the congressperson, but I want it to be in there so they know it's going out. If they get their shit together before it goes out, I will pull it from going out to the congressperson. Because they said, I mean, it's ludicrous. So what they're saying is if there was a hearing scheduled in 75 days, you can wait 40 days or 45 days because you think 30 days is sufficient for a new attorney rep to get up to speed. That might be if they're not going to do anything and they're not going to review the file and they're just going to, you know, sit at the hearing and say hi. But that's not what we do. I mean, there's dozens of hours that need to be scheduled, and it's really infuriating. So I have a scathing letter. It's more than 1 page. And at the bottom, it's like, this is going to go to a congressional inquiry because this is to the detriment of the claimant. This is so not funny. I mean, it's not something that takes a lot of time. It's not like they're evaluating anything. Press the buttons. I even have in my cover letter from the get-go that I've sent now 3 times, the actual paragraph that describes how they go into the RASR system and and then there's a blue button, and so it's all laid out. So welcome to my world, and I hope you guys are not stuck in that same boat because it's got to drive claimants as crazy as it does us, if not more. So anywho, so from now on, I put on my warrior jacket when this happens, and I'm heading over there through the fax machine, and sending probably a little blizzard of repeated letters of the same, like maybe 1 a day for the next week, and then it's going to go to the congressperson, and they can get a little. I think they get maybe little dings, like experience ratings for how many times a congressperson has to call this office. It cannot look good. So, I mean, they mostly really want to avoid it, historically anyway. So, we'll see. Anyway, that was a little bit of my blood pressure raising on this day. All right, so let's see. Papa's place. So it looks like Papa is the first question. I've been in medical phase with my disability case for 8 to 9 months and initially filed around 10 to 11 months ago. Yesterday, my case went to FQR, hopefully for just 7 to 10 days, like stated. My question, is there a percentage of these as positives? As 1, they must have decided something. 2, can't see the federal government wasting too much money on denial reviews. There is no published thing by the SSA as far as I know, Papa. But yes, I think for sure, number 1 is true. They must have decided something. They had to make a medical decision for a medical decision to go to federal quality review, because the medical quality review, federal quality review, is of the medical determination to make sure the rules were followed. 2, can't see the federal government wasting too much money on denial reviews. I seem to lean that way also. I feel like it's more of a protective thing to prevent inappropriate, improper decisions. that are going to cost versus saving someone who would otherwise have to appeal to win the next time. However, as I like to say, in January, got a denial, SSI young person case. We're going to appeal, but we hadn't appealed yet. And next thing I know, he's getting a letter saying, we found you disabled. And I'm like, he must have had some sort of FQR on the denial. And then suddenly it's an award. So I don't know. But by and large, that's the first time that's ever happened to me, by the way. And by and large, we always seem to see it on awards. So I don't know. Deanna, passing you up here. Happy Wednesday to you too. Kathy Clayton from North Carolina. Hi, Kathy. And Earth One, you're super for telling me you could hear me, so I don't have to keep babbling about it. Kubi, hello. Well, hello there too, Kubi. Rangal's from Tacoma, Washington. Hi, Rangal. I got a few clients up in that area of the country. Mike Page in the house. Hello, Attorney Joy, on time today. Thanks for showing up. Mike Page is an awarded fellow, so right? He announced that to us not that long ago. Half Pint, yes. Hi, Half Pint. Lidby Island, Washington. ENS is happy Wednesday to you too. Diana Gillespie, hello from Ohio. Kosher-ish, always happy to learn more. Yeah, you and me both. I think I feel like I'm reading or listening to educational things probably at least 5 hours a day outside of my regular work. I'm not kidding. I can't just sit there and not be doing something. My husband says I have ADHD, but I don't really know that that's so. I think I'm just extra productive, that's all. Because he just wants me to chill out sometimes, I think. All right, Rangal says, all right, question number 2 from Rangal. I have the CE scheduled at Cairo, 3 hip dislocations. Wow, and the doctor is definitely just using the space. Okay, we had talked about this. I don't know if you were here, Rangal, because I'm not sure. You look familiar, though, so maybe if that's your real picture, you look familiar. We were talking about the Cairo in a recent one, like that they're using them. I tend to think they're using them maybe strictly for x-rays, but I don't know. Yeah, you have the x-rays with it. But still, it does surprise me because a Cairo is not a medically acceptable medical source when it's a plaintiff treating with one. So there you go. Oh, double standard there, huh? I mean, if a Cairo, when you do it privately, let's say he does range of motion testing and puts down the numbers, if that's not considered an acceptable diagnosis of anything, and to what extent, why would it be okay at a CE? Inquiring minds want to know. Okay. Oh. Papa's Place as kosher. This is funny. Yeah, because kosher, I don't think you've been here before. Does Walter know you're moonlighting? Yeah, it's funny. I know who Walter is. I don't think he knows who I am. That's my guess. Hey, hope your dogs are feeling better. Nelly. Oh, yeah, we're talking about the dog food, right? Yeah, remember the food works really good, surprisingly. And Nelly, I just wanted to say, I was looking up the details of, okay, so what we were saying no grain food. Oh, gosh, what was it? I actually did an article, like a little research on it, and shared it to others in the regular thing because I wanted them to make sure that what you were talking about, I don't want them to confuse it with something else. I think it's when they use legumes and there's something else like that as the source instead of the protein, and the legume stuff had the risk that you were talking about. So that was true, just not the hydrolyzed protein stuff that I'm talking about, thank God. But yeah, she's doing better and better every day. I mean, she's pretty much over it. Like I said, it was like 3 days and that skin was I want to say all better. Like no stink, no scratching, nothing. ENS says, I had prostate cancer and had a prostatectomy, but my PSA was still detectable. Okay. Sorry you had to go through that. LaRoche is in the house. Hey, Stephanie and everyone. You sound nice and clear. No noises. Lily, is it? Did you just hear the dogs go up? Lily is in the house. Oh, are you Lily? Oh, yeah. Is that what that is? Your picture? Is that a lily? Tell me what kind of flower that is, LaRoche. Is that a lily flower? Okay. Oh, Court Frost is in the house. Says, I've been learning from you for months from the 12 p.m. recordings. Court Frost, that's sweet. But this is my first live. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. Definitely feel free to ask a question. Don't be shy. It's so funny because we seem to get bombarded with questions when we're like pushing over the 2-hour mark. Dogs. Goodness. One of them farts and then they all start barking. And then they stop, but then the next one does it and they all start. Sorry. I find them that to be kind of funny, but I'm very immature. All right. Kathy says, this is Kathy Clayton. Hi, Kathy again. 61, 38 years with an insurance company, which, you know, that's not really relevant, right? Filed and denied, moderate to severe. The ages, though, moderate to severe biforaminal stenosis, carpal tunnel lesions on ulnar nerve, very favorable CE report. Would ALJ judge review CE? Of course. He has to review every piece of evidence just like they do. And he has a lot more ability to, he's not stuck with just, they seem to be stuck by law, understandably so, in a way. And I know that might not be a popular thing to say, but I look at it as like they're stuck into a regimented checkbox thing. You have to meet all the checks, the checkboxes that get you to disabled. And what is defined as clearly, it has to be like no ifs, ands, or buts. It meets that checkbox. Whereas a judge can read between the lines and check credibility and then, you know, do a lot more discretion, use a lot more discretion before coming to his decision. So, yeah, they both have to look at all the evidence. If he fails to read some major piece of evidence, like if let's say he failed to, I'm sorry, guys, I know somebody's coming in the house. I don't know who. Or dropping something off or delivering or something crazy. If he didn't look at something as important as a favorable CE report, then I think that would be a very big appealable issue to the appeals council because, you know, the SSA itself ordered that. And then how do you ignore it? And that's true, really, of your treating doctor records, too. If there's something of magnitude in there, you can't ignore it. You know, if he doesn't mention it and it's of magnitude, not like, you know, the same thing 20 times, you know, you have to list it 20 times, then, yeah, he would likely then be subject to a dandy appeal on that, too. Which just, you know, if you succeed, it probably gets remanded and then he has to redo it and you hopefully don't take him off so that this time he rolls in your favor. ENS goes on to say, I had prostate cancer and a prostatectomy, but my PSA was still detectable. Just finished 30. Ooh, radiation treatments and I have urinary incontinence and taking Lupron for the next 2 years. Okay, so you really got to talk more about your, well, I don't even know I do not know your vocational profile, but don't expect the past to necessarily mean you're disabled under the law. So, and urinary incontinence either. It can be part of it, but you're going to want to get to the physical reasons and or combined with, depending on your vocational profile, even the most mild mental limitations can be really helpful to prove you can't do prior work. Mr. Two Scoops. Hi, Mr. Two Scoops. Did we meet? If we have, it was a long time ago. In Recon, have 2 doctors, 2 CEs that say I can't work, and I have disability evaluation analyst. Is that a? It looks like an ILL, but is that like a 3? Different branch. Who is my third party rep? I don't even know what that means. Oh, is it the person that's your contact? Your third party report? Function report? You wrote a letter of recommendation. Does that letter help? That depends what he said. It's not, it wouldn't be a recommendation. I recommend it would be, I mean, he's not a medical expert. I don't want to, you never really know, but honestly, if a disability analyst at the SSA who's deciding your case sees you with a buddy who's a disability analyst elsewhere, put in his 2 cents to try to sway him, that might be potentially offensive to the guy that's receiving it. Maybe not. I'm just saying potentially. I think that's risky. I mean, on the positive note, pardon me, what he's saying would probably jive with you fitting the rules for disabled given your vocational profile, right? The CE examiners actually say he cannot work because if they said that, they're going to disregard those reports. That's not what they're asked to talk about. They're asked to talk about your limitations. So the words are important. Court Frost says, God, like I'm allergying up. Runny nose. Any guidance? I just got my first denial at 14 months. Long time wait, right? I spent a lot of time making sure everything was thorough. I'm not sure what else to provide for proof. Any advice is appreciated. Much will depend on your vocational profile because you have to know what the different paths are to get to each. If you're 40, if you're under 50, say, and then if you're 50 to 54, 55 to and above, they have different, paths. The path, if you're under 50, is you got to prove that all 12,000 jobs are not available. It's not easy to do. Largely you have to prove that you are unable to do even sedentary work on a full-time basis, maybe for physical reasons. Either that or you're completely mentally off the skids, and that's provable because you're in the institutionalized or inpatient site care, lengthy every year or twice a year. It's even more strong. But other than that, it's like really, really difficult. And I know that sounds like Debbie Downer, but it really is. But if you have a plethora of things that interrupt the ability to sustain 8-hour day, 5 days a week on a reliable basis, and certainly not even through maybe 1 week, various, usually that's when you have multiple impairments, not necessarily, but oftentimes, then you can do it on those physical, and then you're trying to prove almost less than sedentary. So you're not trying to, because if you can do sedentary, it's funny. I've seen a person win with a really bad shoulder. It was a teacher, but it was a closed period because once the shoulder was not bad enough to be completely unusable, then the judge gave her a closed period because she stopped treating for it. And, that was and she was under 50. So I wish I could give you more details, Court, but I don't know your case. But the one thing I always tell everybody, just as a general rule, for everything, when you look at number 20 on your function report, and if you can't do any of those things 8 hours a day, start looking at it and then start testing it. Like sitting, can you sit for 8 hours a day? Make people say, well, of course I could sit for 8 hours a day. Do I want to? No, I'm used to doing construction, but could I? Yes. But can they really? If they have a bad back, I don't know anyone with a bad back that can sit in a work type chair 8 hours a day without pain. I really don't. I don't think it. People answer that question so unhelpfully because they think I can sit, eat dinner, open the mail. So if they feel like they can sit for what they need at home, that means I can do it. No, it's what's effective. And think of it as an 8-hour day, week after week after week. And then test yourself. Unless your doctor says it's, contraindicated due to your condition, it could hurt you. Do the sitting. Sit there at a table. Do not lean over like this, on your elbows, but just sit there and sit upright. Maybe just, you could maybe like be moving your hands in front of you. And how long can you sit there before you feel something that's going to start distracting you? Some discomfort, an increase in discomfort. Because usually once it starts to increase, it starts snowballing, right? I mean, it's like we've lost the buffer, and now it's just going to take off. The brakes are gone. Same thing with standing. Do it at your counter. And the same thing with walking. We frequently have to follow up with people about statements they make about walking. How can you walk? How far can you walk without stopping? 20 minutes. Well, for a regular walk, well, that's not super fast. That's a mile. You can walk a mile? Because then the next question is how, so they can walk a mile, and how much rest do you need before you can get up again? And they'll say 15 minutes or 2 minutes or whatever they say. And then, so the presumption is, okay, they could do a mile and then like 15-minute change up and then mile, 15-minute change up, mile. I mean, next thing you know, you've gotten 10, not 10 miles, but well, yeah, maybe 10 miles by the end of the day. That is consistent with light work. That's not even limited to sedentary. But what they don't realize is they never actually tried to do that. But that's the way their answer reflected, because they didn't say anything to the contrary. So I always urge, in that section that says, how much rest do you need after before you can get up again? I.e., repeat what you just did. 15 minutes is fine, whatever the amount of time is. But then I would put this in there. If you cannot repeat that multiple times the rest of the day, another mile, I would make that clear. Just, be like, I would not, maybe I could repeat it once, maybe. Although I still think a mile for someone with physical problems. Remember, it's not about how far could you walk if you had to save someone's life. You could probably walk 100 miles. How far can you walk before your pain starts to distract you? That's what I look at it as. Before the first thing happens that would affect your work. And usually it's pain. So think of it maybe along those lines. Just a suggestion to get you thinking out of the box a little bit of the way we normally think. Think of it at whenever they're asking the questions, it is usually, they're not going to say it, but it's about all day long, So I wouldn't say I can't do it all day long, because that leaves you open for I can do it for 7 hours instead of 8. So I would be more, test yourself is not a bad idea, so you know your realities. And when speaking of it, if you can't repeat that walk, whatever walk you find that you can do without pain. So again, I say to people who say they 20 minutes a month, I ask them all the time. We ask them, when's the last time you walked a mile? Oh God, no, years. Then why did you put it? Like, you don't know you can walk that mile without any discomfort, right? Or any discomfort, or, increased discomfort that you would normally have from just sitting. So you got to make sure you know everything about yourself that's being asked about before you say it, because you're stuck with those answers. They're going to travel with you all the way to hearing. And sometimes I see them in the next case if you had a referral. Not because we put them there, but the SSA sometimes does. Have you ever had a case with prostate cancer with a biochemical I don't know what that is. Probably it's just not. If I have a prostate cancer, everything's going to depend on treatment and the results of the treatment, because they're going to assume that you are. There's no issue with them, saying, oh, if you're under like the kind of treatment that makes you kind of ill and stuff like that. Yeah, disabled during that time. Okay, so that lasted 4 months. Guess what? You didn't hit the 12-month duration. So that's the whole thing with cancer. It's like unless it's one of those ones that are, God forbid, on a compassionate allowance list, that alone isn't going to get you disabled by and large because of the duration factor. If you have other things going on that are more permanent, because, presumably you're going to come out of this. That's why you're having the treatment, right? And, so you have to look at that duration thing too. Sometimes with a case like that, I would be like, you know what, let's wait a few months into your treatment before we file, so that when in a perfect world, we almost wait until after it's done, if it's not that long, because then we know, is the person bouncing back? Now that the treatment's not interfering, being directly applied. And you got to have a picture, and an ALJ will have the same, not ALJ, the adjudicator will have the same picture that, well, he's got post-treatment, blah, blah, blah. They might still say, well, we expect that to resolve in a couple of months. If you talk to your doctor and your doctor says, well, usually it resolves in a couple of months, but if it doesn't resolve in a couple of months, you might have some chronic fatigue going on, then that's something I'd want to track. And you'd want that discuss, like all that all right, so now 2 months go by and you're crazy fatigued, where you can get about 2 hours done during the day, and you've got a nap for 3, and then you get up and put together a little dinner and say hi to the family. Maybe you can run an errand or two, but then you are really taking naps during the day and stuff. That's the kind of thing that, if that goes on forever, of course, that would be disabling, I think. Because if it's like that every day, what's the chance you're going to be able to do an 8-hour day job 5 days a week? It doesn't matter how simple and sedentary it is. It's being awake and cognizant, right? Even for an unskilled job. So, so much is going to have to do with how you react to the treatment when it's done, potentially. And I hope you don't have any of these long-term problems, ENS. Right? It would be great if you can go off and, earn, and whether it's your old job or you get a whole new job, irrespective. But anyway. Court frost is 60. Oh, I'm right behind you. 60 is awesome. I can't wait. 70 is going to be even better, if I'm still here. Oh, Papa's Place. Thank you for your honest opinion. Always. Sometimes it's not popular. But you don't want anything snow. You don't want to be snowed. Don't come here for that. ENS says, have you ever had a case of urinary incontinence? Yeah, about 50% of them. Are you kidding? Very common. Doctor wrote that I must wear a Depend and access to that. Ooh, that's good. 45 minutes. How long does it take to go to the bathroom? Is it a 2-minute bathroom break? Because think about it this way. And interruptions of the workday are very important. That could be decent. I'd like to see more, though. I don't know. I don't remember what you said your age was, if you said it, ENS. Off task. And I've heard a vocational expert actually say, I would consider that a need for an accommodation, and that makes any job they have an accommodated job, and that is not one of the competitive jobs that they can assert you can do. So that was kind of helpful. One little tidbit: a few years ago, when we first started our colleague Zooming thing every month, which I haven't been doing for like a year now, but our schedules just couldn't match up. And we'd have guest vocational experts and stuff come in. But if you are, they say, the most unsympathetic of VEs will put, you can't be off task more than 10% aside from the normal breaks that we are supposedly given. 15 minutes in the morning, half hour for lunch, 15 minutes in the afternoon. They'll say 10% of the day on top of that. So 10% of the day on top of that, assuming, well, do they mean the remainder of the day, 10%, or they mean the 8-hour day or 8-hour day would be how much? I don't know. I'd have to do the math. But think about it. So like, if you have to go every 45 minutes and you get a break after 2 hours, you get into work, you go potty before you start your job. 45 minutes later, you go potty again. Takes, say, 5 minutes. You're at 50 minutes. 45 minutes after that, you got to go potty again. So now we're at what? Like 100 minutes or an hour and say an hour and 45 minutes. Going potty again. If you can't hold to the 15 minute to the next break, which is you're about to sneeze upon, that would be 2 breaks before the 2-hour break, right? That's 10 minutes. I don't know if it's gonna that might not be enough. And then of course the judge has to believe you actually have to go that often. I would like to think he does. I mean, your word depends, or you're supposed to. But if you can bring in the fatigue you might have. I mean, if you haven't treated for these things yet, it's kind of too late for you now since you have a hearing coming up. But if it flies south and you have to file again, those are things I would think about. And of course, your vocational profile is uber important. Can't know your path to win if you don't have a clear picture of that, because that defines it under the law. Kathy says, denial states your condition has some limitations in your ability to perform work-related tasks. That's a canned statement, by the way, in nearly every denial. Limitations do not prevent you from performing work you've done in the past. All right, so they denied you at step 4. Can the person do their past work? If they had found that you could not do your past work, then you'd move on to step 5. Okay, she can't do her past work, but can she do any of the other 12,499 jobs that exist in the economy? So, depending again, Kathy, is your vocational profile one that can take advantage of the grids? I wonder. You might have told me before, but I apologize, I forget. The CE noted limitations. Yep. Right. Oh, by the way, Kathy, they're not saying you don't have limitations. They do say you have some limitations in perform work-related activities. So you are not at 100% able to do all those things in number 20 for 8 hours straight. However, because most jobs don't require they all be done for 8 hours, some jobs require certain ones be done for 8 hours, but not other ones. And certain jobs don't require some of those at all. That's where they're saying that you've missed a gap of something in your evidence. Usually. Dimple's in the house. Hi, Dimple. From Ohio. See, I knew we had other Ohios. Thank you, Ricardo. Nice to see you in the house. Thanks for coming as always. Gregory Petty. Hi, Gregory. Nice to see you. Thanks for showing up. We'd love to see you. Darren's in the house. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you again, Darren. Gregory says, if I get my CDR on time next month, since it will be 3 years since I got my last short form CDR, will the DDS of the state of Georgia review my CDR, or will it be reviewed by the federal government? You know, I'm assuming, well, let me think. I'm actually working on a CDR right now. I don't normally, but I'm trying to recall. I don't think I've looked at the address we'll be dealing with. Oh, that's probably because it's going on to hearing. I would think they would have moved it over to the feds, back to the feds, I should say, pretty fast after they made that announcement. When was that, like a month or 2 ago? I think they would. It doesn't matter for all of our purposes, you know. It really doesn't matter. The rules are still the same regardless, but I really can't answer that, Gregory. I'm sorry. I haven't looked it up, and I don't even know if it's findable. Sherry Romero. My neurologist diagnosed me with static encephalopathy back in 2024. Do I bring this up to my attorney? Yeah. It was the last time I was able to see my neurologist because of my insurance, and I haven't been back. Well, presumably he has your neurologist records. If you can't afford your insurance, then I suggest, we talked about things like this, Sherry, didn't we? Is that you? Medicaid? What's with the Medicaid? If you're poor, you need to go apply for that ASAP. You know, you got to get those things that might affect, I assume, physical capacities, Sherry. ENS, thank you. You are welcome. La Rocho. Oh, it's a little lily. Is that what a lily looks like? I painted a lily once back when I used to try to paint. It's really very good. But I like to do it. I just haven't done it in years. Dimple says, my order today suggested chiropractor would possibly help with my back. That kind of surprised me. You know what? I've never been to a chiro, Dimple, but people I know that do swear by it. If I had a chronic, I guess not just back, but maybe back, I probably would try it. I mean, it's not going to be, don't let it replace PT at all. I don't know, because PT is more official and you want it prescribed. Someone was telling me that in their state, you don't need to have it prescribed. You can just go. I was like, all right, that's not going to be very helpful because that is not medically necessary necessarily. Sherry says, hey, Shashi, I haven't been back even though my pain and PCP wants me to badly, but I can't afford to go. So again, what is your health insurance? Why can't you afford to go? Do you have Medicaid where you don't pay anything anyway? What's going on? You might have told me this a few weeks ago, Sherry. I apologize if I don't recall. As you can imagine, there's dozens and dozens. It's not hundreds. Tanya, I got a message saying that they have completed the medical review and that a representative will do a final review to make sure that you still meet the non-medical. It's neither, Tanya. At this stage, going on several years now, that goes out to win, lose, or draw. Unfortunately, I think it's a mistake in messaging. I don't know why they still do it. I wish they would yank it, but it's been going on since 23, I think, because it was either late 22 or early 23, because I remember when it started, and we're all kind of, the logic of it is, if you're going to a non-medical review, they only need to do that if you pass the medical. Why would they waste that, manpower to do that when you cannot win? Send them packing, and if they reply again, and the non-medical requirements are the same as when you first applied the things they checked. So I find it to be really, really poor judgment of the SSA not to get rid of that whole phrase. It confuses people. It's been doing it for, what are we on, 2027? Quite a few years now. But, I guess it's not high on the totem pole. Dimple says, would x-rays from a chiropractor be included? Yes, for sure. Now, a chiropractor, this is what I can't avert to or agree to or, confirm for you. If a chiropractor puts himself in the shoes of a radiologist, which is the person credentialed to read the x-rays and make an interpretive report, I don't know that his report would be, usually the report comes from a radiologist because they send you to a radiology place that has a radiologist on staff who reads them and interprets them and does up the little report. But if your chiropractor is giving it, is he also writing a report as to what he and his little chiropractor brain have decided it looks like? And the funny thing is, he could be very good at it, but as with everything else, without the credentials, you don't get credit for squat. So take that for what it is. Now, if that's a CE ordered chiropractor, and then the rate and the x-rays are going to be there, then they have to definitely consider the report. And I would imagine that would be from a radiologist, though, and not the chiropractor who has maybe the authority to be the technician to perform the x-rays. Sherry says, I haven't been back even though my pain... Oh, okay, I saw that one already, Sherry. Old Grizz. Hi, old Grizz in the house. back doctor referred me to occupational therapy. Woo-hoo. Is it a good idea to ask them to make note of my limitations? No. And forward them to my doctor? No, that's their job anyway. To maybe make sure they are noting these things in writing. I would not offend the physical therapist by telling him how to do his job. That's just a risk you have to take. Hopefully you'll be going plenty of visits and you'll be seeing if he's recording things. He's only going to record probably what's relevant to what he's doing, you know, his role. But I would not be telling a professional, I want you to do this, this, and this, and make sure you do this. I mean, think about it. Think about it. It would be, you could get someone kind of ticked off, I think. And some people, when they're ticked off, might be less professional. I'm not going to admit to it, but they could develop one of those little biases when they're pissed, you know, ticked off at somebody. You know, just because you irked them. I'd be careful there, always on that. And by the way, of course, other professionals and attorneys can differ on my answers are what I think from my 21 plus years of exclusively doing this. However, that doesn't mean there aren't reasonable minds can't differ. You know, this is just the way I believe it works best. Mr. Two Scoops says, follow up. The CEs say markedly, significantly limited. Ooh, that's not bad. It doesn't say extremely, and it's so funny how the words, there's literally marked, I like to say, but marked and extreme. And they're actually two of the legal terms they use. Will you stop barking, please? So it's a step down from extreme. So it depends. When they ask about market extreme on the RFC kind of forms, it's with a specific thing. It's not just about, is he markedly limited in what? In range of motion or whatever. So it's good because there is an avenue to winning with the markets if the SSA believes them to be true. Market, you might need more than one description of something being markedly limited, though. Whereas extreme, and this is kind of complicated to explain, but in those domains are like just one thing being extremely limited can be enough, depending on what that thing is. Whereas in some, it specifically says, but if it's only marked, it's got to be 2 or more. And moderate doesn't do anything. Somehow they think, or the rules seem to be, if you are not mildly, but moderately limited in every single thing, you still work. I'm like, if someone was moderate pain, I mean, who can even keep working if you're in moderate pain? You know what I mean? I don't know. I just find it kind of funny when if everything's moderately impaired, they still say, and this is particularly true in like the mental health arena. He's moderately limited, not mildly, moderately limited in getting along with supervisors. Well, holy moly. What supervisor is going to keep you around if you're not just here and there having a problem, but moderately? That seems like more than, mildly means somewhat you're going to have a problem dealing with your supervisor. Moderately is quite a big step up from that. Kathy says, would not having surgery impact your case? Constant question. Hand specialist says he didn't think I needed surgery. Neurologist recommends ulnar nerve surgery. If the surgery didn't work, then it would be coming from cervical spine issues. It's a shame they can't figure out if it is now. Like, figure it out. Is it? Yeah, right? I looked at OT and PT. Well, that also buys you time, which is nice. And the neurologist's statement that you said the hand specialist said he didn't think I needed it. Is he talking about your need? You're, saying you're not very impaired, you don't need it? Or is he saying you're not a candidate? I don't think the ulnar surgery would resolve that because I think it's coming from your neck. Big difference, right? One is saying, so mild, why is this lady even complaining, right? And the other one is saying, yeah, you got a problem. But I don't see the EMG or whatever is not showing that it's coming from you know, whatever the surgery would fix. It's coming from something else, like, so you got to kind of figure that out, maybe. Well, you have two people with, I think it does buy you time, if not forever time. I don't know. Doesn't mean it's helping you, but I think that means it prevents you from being accused of not following medical advice. If every expert saying you should have surgery, that would be your best chance of fixing this. You should have surgery. And you don't, you have to then it'd be logical that you have to have some other good reason why you're not following the medical advice that this would resolve significantly your problem and you'd be able to go back to work. That's the little fluffies that come up here. Yeah. So if you have one surgeon saying, I don't see that this is going to help, and he's the hand specialist. And the neurologist, which is arguably a different kind of specialist, I'm sure he's good with hands, but then you have a hand specialist. Did the neurologist refer you to the hand specialist? Because if he did, and then he says, I don't agree with him, that would be surprising. Yeah, so I think you kind of have a buffer there, because you have, who's going to jump into surgery when 50% of the experts say you shouldn't do it, right? Not going to help. Umo's in the house. Hi, Umo. You're welcome, ENS. Oh, Dimple, you're leaving the 50s. I'm so jealous. I'll catch you there next year. Should have a 60s party. George says, I go for my hearing on Monday. My lawyer won't speak to me until 15 minutes. We're going crazy. Yeah, that is crazy. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that, George. That's nuts. How's it going to prep you? 15 minutes before the hearing? That's insane. For those of you that don't know, what I do is definitely within a week before the hearing, but I prefer it to be like ideally 2 or 3 days before the hearing. Because people forget stuff. That's the only reason. But, you know, we get on the phone and it can go anywhere from an hour to 3 hours. So I would say an hour and a half to 3 hours. I don't even know if I ever hit an hour and a half. I'm a little chatty though, you know. But yeah, we go over everything. What's going to happen? We go over the function report so they know where their limitations were before and how they express them, so they can think about if they've gotten worse. You know, we discuss how to answer questions, like how to frame them versus alternative ways that are less helpful and less clear to the judge and could misguide him. You want him to know exactly what's going on. Don't go crazy though, George. You got this. I mean, in theory, everything should be in your medical records. But the important thing about prepping for a hearing is so that you don't detract from the medical records by saying something stupid. I don't mean to make you anxious any more than you are. But I do have some videos on hearing prep. I would say the biggest thing, George, is review your function report. And I'd say review your work history report, except I don't know if you did it right. So I don't really want you to reiterate that if they feel they need to ask you questions. So I can't really speak to that. But the function report, look at your answers. I do have function report videos on every question, pretty much. If you were to watch them and then you think, oh man, I didn't answer that one right, like you have your old function report in front of you, you can, you know, when you go to hearing, you could say, well, since I did my function report, Judge, this has changed, and you know, when I, you know, my ability to walk, when I said I could walk a few miles, I was kind of thinking I could, but I can't do that. I tried, you know, or whatever, you know. And presumably you have more medical records since your function report that hopefully show maybe some deterioration since then. Not that I want to see you deteriorating, but for evidence purposes, I say it only from that perspective. But hang in there. You got this. Monday. We'll be thinking about you. Well, you're not going to hear the answer for a while, but, you know. Definitely feel free to keep us posted. Oh, I start with the first of it, Elliot, because I gotta go, wait, it's Elliot. Nice to see you. How are you? It's your legally blind pre-law student friend here. Yes, thank you for coming in. That's awesome. You want an internship? Internships. Sorry. That's what we poor disability lawyers refer to. Roy Timberlake. Hi, Roy. I don't think we've met. After I turn 67 and I am on disability, am I able to work? Would I still access to think about? Okay, so you're on SSD now, I presume, or SSI. You are not yet 67, and you are wondering if, am I able to work once I'm 67? Generally, you can't lose this. Your disability is going to change legally over to retirement. So you're going to be just like every other person who never filed for SSD, but you're going to be getting the same full amount you've been getting, okay? Because you never took early retirement. You took disability. So that's a huge bonus. And your handicap parking has to do with what your doctor gave you. That has nothing to do with SS. Probably most people that have handicap parking placards do not have Social Security disability. A lot of them are trying, you know. A lot of my clients do have placards, but or they got them in the interim or whatever, and they haven't won their cases yet. So a lot of people who never file or, you know, are still pending, you know, it's really unrelated too much, you know. Much easier to get a disability placard. That's why they're not really conclusive. Kind of like the veteran P&T, you know, it's much easier to get that. I say easy, but I know it's a real pain, guys. But the threshold of how limited you have to be is far more minor than to get SSD. Trying to see if there's and ability to work. Yes, because once you're off disability, you're not subject to an earnings limit. And because you're 67 or above collecting retirement, as opposed to collecting retirement under 67, when you're subject to an earnings cap, you can go and earn $1 million a year. I would say, you know, I've never seen this, but it stands to reason. Let's say you flipped to 67 and you always had a bad back and you couldn't do squat. And next thing you know, you're being a lumberjack. I wonder if someone could say, he's been committing fraud all these years. So don't be something stupid, but go to Home Depot, or if you're an accountant, go do some accountant work, whatever you can do. I mean, remember, you could work part-time at things that don't belie your disability the whole time you're disabled. You know, as long as you stay within the strict rules of how much income, keep those hours super, super low, completely A-okay if you do it with care and respect for the disability benefits you're getting. But once you're, you know, 67, those rules don't apply. I would just make sure, like I said, not to do something obviously really stupid that would make someone think that you had fake doctor's reports or something in the past. But yes, enjoy earning. Marco Ensley. Isn't that so funny? We have an ENS and then we have a Marco Ensley. Hi, my name is Marco Ensley. Nice to meet you, Marco. My neurologist stated that I have full neuropathy. We're at the 1 hour mark, guys. I have full neuropathy in my hands and feet. Oh, gosh. I don't know how you do it. I've just recently been diagnosed with lupus. On top of that, Marco, how does it affect my claim? Lupus is a big deal. I mean, it depends how much it affects you and your functioning, but be really robust with that. I assume, is it like seropositive? Get that in there. If you have a pending claim now, Marco, yeah, you got some bad stuff. Bad stuff. That neuropathy in the hands and the feet, particularly if it's constant, that really disrupts everything. I feel for you. And then to throw lupus on top of it. So, you know, so much is going to be how bad is the lupus, you know, do you get flares a lot? You know, you have to look at the finer details that are specific to you and not just to anyone with lupus, because everyone's really different. Sherry says, I have applied for Medicaid, but I was denied. I have no income, so I don't know. Well, you have to find out why you were denied. It might be very simple remedy. It might be something that you missed on the form. You forgot to. I mean, seriously, find it. Do you have? I don't think you said you had a spouse, right, Sherry? Have you been appealing? Read the directions. I think you can appeal those things. And don't give up. Don't give up. I don't do Medicaid law. Obviously, that's very state and local type of law, but yeah, you gotta push, Sherry. You got to. Sherry continues to say, I have indigent care through my hospital, and it only covers in-network doctors. There's no neurologist in-network, which is infuriating. Talk to the. This is maybe a crapshoot, but what is the deal when you're referred to a specialist and there's neurologist left? Can you go to? How do you get it so you can go to another one and they'll cover it? See if that's a thing. Because they don't have one. It's not because they do, but you prefer a female, or So you know what I'm saying? Like, because they don't have one. I mean, then why don't they just get rid of all their specialists and have people get medicine by Google? So I would see it just would make no sense to me if they didn't have that. But of course, a lot of things don't make sense, right? I'm not gonna say this name. But of course I'll laugh because I'm so immature. It's crazy. All right. Hey, Coach, you just noticed this channel existed. I'm just gonna call you. I'll call you Dick. My father's name was Richard, and he went by Dick, and we had the same last name. Isn't that funny? It's true. It's true. And it's funny, when he was older, now he was divorced from my mom, he started going by Richard. But I mean, he was the elder generation too. I mean, he was like in his late 30s when he had me. So it's like, it was a very common name naturally from Richard. And now people avoid it because of the obvious reasons. Right, Dick? All right. Anyway, thanks for showing up, Dick. I appreciate it. My ortho gave me 4 options today. She's sleeping. Chiropractor, PT, injection, or surgery. I say start conservative. I mean, particularly if you've already had a recent surgery you're trying to get over. I told her that chiropractor kind of scares me. Funny you say that, Dimple. I don't know about you guys. I've never been to a chiropractor. But like I said, the people I know that go regularly, they love it. I've been there when my friend went many years ago, like 20-some years ago. And this whole thing, but I heard it's great, but I'm so afraid too. It's not that I wouldn't do it, but I would be afraid of being paralyzed. I know that's ridiculous. I think you made some good choices there. PT and the injection of PT didn't help. Yeah, and those are conservative therapies, and you will see in, well, ALJs, depending on what they want to do with your case, will others say, he's tried all these therapies and they all failed, and still this problem. And that's what we argue. I've seen, ALJs where they want to deny, they'll say, only done conservative therapies versus what? Cut my right arm off? Like, all right, dogs. Oh my God. Can you guys hear them? I swear. 5 years. Life expectancy. Simple says, I was just thinking that a chiropractor does full spinal x-rays and that might help to show lower back issues up. You definitely, if you have lower back issues, Dimple, you have to get them worked up. Not just x-rays, MRI, orthopedist, not chiropractor. You need to go, because you need to get that as a diagnosis, and if you can't get that through a chiropractor. Can't, and you have to start there. That's like one of the all right already. Buddy, Maya, Otis, Shiloh. Yes, there's 4. Oh, Slack. Oh, who's Slack? Who's Slack? Kosher. Oh, I appreciate that. Stephanie's great. Let fun. What does that mean? More direct info? Yeah, whatever you want to know. Just ask me. If I have an answer, based on my experience, I will share it. If I don't, I'll tell you that too. I won't be pulling stuff out of my Yahoo. Papa's Place says, if your DLI date ran out in the middle of your case, if your DLI date, this is what I'm always warning everybody about, right? On the big nag hag on the DLI. Even if they have approved your medical disabilities part, would it deny your case or does it work on a grandfathered system? Well, Papa, this doesn't happen to you, right? Because you're still in your place. They have to find that you are medically disabled before that remote DLI. So before whatever your DLI is, guys, you have got to know your DLI and pray that it's a few years ahead of you. I mean, it's so important. And if it's not, I suggest you do something about it. I mean, just until you're in your case. So there is not grandfathering, but they have to find you disabled before your window of insurance. They have to find you disabled when you still have the insurance. When you let insurance lapse, you can't go then file the car. I had a car accident. I already stopped paying over here, and I don't have any, the month ran out that last payment would cover, or the 3 months or whatever you paid. But I got in an accident in the 4th month. Will it cover me? Of course not. It won't cover you. I'm just reading. I'm so blurry-eyed. So whenever they find, that would be your established onset date. You want your established onset date to be before your DLI. Obviously, ideally, you want it at your alleged onset date, which is probably before that. But in any event, to win it all, you have to get it by the last day of your date last insured. And then, of course, that would be your established onset date. And then you have your 5 months that have to be unpaid after that. And then depending on where that lies, they will pay you after that, but never more than 12 months worth of payments before your application that you sent in. So all those little dates. It's not as complicated as it sounds when you put them on paper visually. Why, Temple? That's super sweet. I appreciate it. I fully respect your opinions. Very thankful for the info input you give. Anytime, here or there. Kosher's talking to. Oh, Kosher, yes, rapid fire. I know I talk fast, and I want to get to all the questions. Because part of the thing is too, Kosher, it's supposed to end at 3, and when there's a bunch of questions, I tend to stick around. Sometimes I'll be like, all right, that person just popped in. They decided to come in late. They're the question at the end, and I'm like, I don't know that I should be staying late for that. But so far, the last year or two, I kind of try anyway. Year or so. I don't even know how long it's been. Has it been 2 years? And what do you mean, Kosher, less fun? I'm lots of fun. I might not be a fearmonger, but I'm lots of fun. Dick says, nice. I would think the SSA would frown on chiropractors. I agree with you, Dick, because they'll consider chiropractors evidence, of course, just like they consider your cousin Johnny's statements, and probably a little bit more than that. I'm not putting down chiropractors at all. It's just that legally that's what they've been. I mean, they have way more standing than they had 40 years ago, for sure. That's when they were considered like ambulance chasers, which was really unfair. But that's how a couple people in a very small industry make a bad name for the whole thing. And now they're far more robust. They're, they have good credentials, and they have organizations, and that if you want to be part of that organization, they keep you up to, all that. That stuff's kind of a pain, but I guess it can be helpful in medicine. But I would think so too, only because they don't let it be a diagnosis. So what are they doing? Maybe because he's not diagnosing, he's just observing range of motion limitations, if there are any. That could be it. Maybe that doesn't take, it's the exception. I don't know. RD is in the house. Hi, RD. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, right, Papa? I even got the parrot, Miss Tasha, who probably wishes I had a cookie, but I don't have a cookie. Elliot says, hey, at All Things Social Security, I just got a letter from SSA regarding how I recently applied for assistance from VR. Vocational rehabilitation, would that be? It says I must abide by VR plan or I could get a CDR. Is this true? Well, I'm not, how did this transpire? Was that private vocational rehab agency or one that goes to the county? I don't know what that means when you would get a CDR. CDR, I'm assuming they mean if you start, I don't know. I mean, that sounds like a ticket to work program, but were you doing a ticket to work program thing? In which case that means you're trying to get off SSD. So I don't know. Hey, 7X is in the house. Nice to see you again. I'm still in Recon SSDI since July. I was just awarded workers' comp temporary benefits back pay for about a year and a half. Will receiving that money affect my SSDI claim? Feasibly, if and when you win your SSDI, and if any of the months that your SSDI covers are also months that were paid workers' comp, they applied to those months as well, you have to add those two figures up. If those two figures together is more than 80% of your ACE, average current earnings, which is a figure you can get from the SSA. So I'll say something about that in a second. If the two benefits together exceed in any given month 80% of your ACE, you'll have to forego whatever's over 80%. So someone's going to have an offset, whether it's workers' comp getting paid or, or usually it's going to be SSD because they're still paying you, and that's the way the money's going to be recouped. When I say ACE, average current earnings, when you call and ask for it, ask them for what is my ACE? And then ask them separately. So with the 80% rule, what would be 80%? Because you want, the reason why I say you want to ask about the 80% too, and they're probably look at you crooked, like, why can't you just do 80%? But at least that confirms that what they gave you was the 100% of the ACE instead of the 80% already. Because if they already know there's an 80% rule, they might be thinking they're kind and giving you this lower amount. And then you're going and taking 80% of that. And then you're really scared. So you're like, wow, I really did, I will say that the 80% rule with workers' comp generally affects lower to lower middle to middle income earners. Just because of the way the money falls. I mean, their SSDI is proportionally higher than someone who made more money. Proportionally. Or relatively, I should say. But they got their workers' comp tends to be pretty high. And if their income was generally on the more moderate side, lower, it's easy, very easy to hit the 80% and all of one is going to just be gone. So always, I would, if I had a workers' comp case, from a personal viewpoint, you might want to know that. You can't really change it, but you want to know it's going to be a factor. If you have a workers' comp attorney, he presumably has your ACE. We don't get the ACE, but you can call SSA and get your ACE. Average current earnings. For anyone who needs it. Okay. Growing, glowing today. Hi there, Growing. I don't think we've met. Due to being disabled and not being able to work and destitute, and now living in a family shelter. Family shelter, okay. My caseworker asked my lawyer to file something to prioritize. Yes. Yes, that's true. That would be like a dire need. Homelessness. So And it's not like you're just living with family, don't have your own house. It's like you're literally in a family shelter. So, yeah, if you tell him about that, that's something that could be definitely something. If he's smart, he's going to want proof of that family shelter situation. And I say that because people have been known to say they're homeless and they were really living at their brother's on the couch. They felt homeless because they don't have their own space, or they're kind of under the hammer of the big bro, but they're not the kind of homeless that they're talking about. They're talking about people that are really going to be without a roof and or in a shelter. So, like when people say I'm going to lose my house, I'm like, well, if it's gone into foreclosure, let me know. Send me the paperwork, and we will shoot that right in there. The reason why I think they want the actual foreclosure startup is because just not paying your rent, sometimes they don't do anything for a couple of years. So they don't want to be jumping through hoops when you probably have 3 years left with the roof over your head on the house you're not paying the mortgage on. 7X says definitely getting lots of treatments. Still, does physical therapy hurt? Oh my goodness, you got a 4th back surgery coming up, right? Fingers crossed for you, 7X. That's scary stuff. But you're obviously a tough cookie. Elliot, where do I play with? It's an unpaid internship right now, Elliot. But yeah, if you wanted to learn the ropes, I would certainly be willing to see what you want to do. And the only reason why it's unpaid is because I'm paying the people that are actually doing the work, and it takes a little bit of getting up to speed. But you could really learn this practice. You and I kind of talked about this before, right? Yeah. And I tell you, I got to retire someday. I mean, it won't be for a while, but I do want to have a life before I do that. ENS says, we are cousins. You are not. You talking about Marco Ensley? Are you really? Or am I just pulling it on my yin yang? I mean, it was just funny, the two names showing up in the same live stream. Okay. It's mythic. Okay. So we're talking Roman numerals. Okay. So we're not talking dick. Can I just call you that anyway? It's just easier than calling you my. And did you make your name to be funny with it? Because it does say my THIC, as in the first part of the word thick. Just wondering. Kosher thought the exact same thing. Well, of course. Anyone with a dirty mind would. Sorry. And some of us have those dirty minds. Michelle says, hi, in regards to Sherry not being able to find in-network neurologists, I work in medical and deal with this at times. She needs to call her insurance and they will guide her. Did she say she doesn't have insurance, Michelle? It was like something else. Right? But I agree with you. I mean, you got to be the squeaky wheel, right? Got it, Sherry. Oh, my channel name is Slatherings, which used to show up instead of usernames. Oh, I see. Yeah, I guess so. If you wanted to not be your channel showing up on everything, you could just be a username. That makes sense. I probably won't remember Slatherings, but I might. When I just remember I'm not supposed to call you Dick. Growing says, I have chronic congestion, heart failure, reflexia, mobility, gait. Okay, they're all important, but those are really important for legal purposes. Pulmonary embolism disease, building disc, bulging, I think you mean, right? in the lumbar. Laying on root nerve. Ooh, yep. So nerve involvement is what is really most pivotal in those things. Use a cane and walker and cane. Gosh, growing, I'm so sorry. You got a lot on your plate. Goodness. Goodness. All right, where did I leave off? There we go. I was just scrolling up, growing. If you're over 50 growing, those things are going to help you the most at that age. Doesn't mean you can't do it under necessarily, but you know that whole age thing. Dimple says, I have to scoot. We'll catch the rest of the show on replay unless you're still on when I'm available later. Well, hopefully not, since it's already 2:20, but Dimple, always good to see you. Thank you so much. Dolphin. My twin brother, 57, is SSDI approved a few years ago. Went back to work and made too much money. This is RD. Okay. He did get it waived, but recently they stopped his payments. Do you handle this type of case? Well, it depends what he's doing. Is he reapplying? I certainly would, like an expedited reinstatement or a reapply for sure. You can have him, reach out to me. And if he says that he spoke to you, it'll refresh my memory. Like I'll be able to connect the dots. So give that a shot. You can go to, if you go to joydisability.com and click on the link right at the top left, can't miss it, free SSD evaluation. But when he's typing in there the part that's narrative, tell him to say, my brother, is RD or Dolphin on the live stream. And they'll get that right to me. T-Cash. T-Cash is in the house. Hi, T-Cash. Did we meet before? SSA is having a webinar about debunking the myths of Ticket to Work program. Ooh, yeah, you should watch it. I'd rather listen to you because I'm sure they wouldn't. I think hopefully you can, there's a recording of that. I'd rather listen to you because I'm sure they wouldn't have my best interest in mind. Well, the one thing I could say about the Ticket to Work program, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's not for people who consider themselves unable to work full time and don't see that changing right now. Like if it changes later, you can always think about going back. It's a Ticket to Work program is specifically for people who want to get off of SSDI, get off it. So it starts you on that path to do that by helping you get a job you can do. So even if you get a job that is 1 in a million, that would not be the kind of job they'd hold you accountable for if you weren't doing it. But he could do that weird job. You're doing it so that you wouldn't be on SSD because you're working substantially at that job. So I don't know what the myths are. I should probably try to find out. If you know what they are, let me know. Because to me, it's very clear. It is a program to get you off SSDI. That is not an evil thing by the SSA, by the way, because it's for the people that's what they're trying to do. Like, I don't want to be on this SSD, and I do think I could work full time or substantially if I had the right job. So I would do it on a sustained basis and not be unable to do it in 3 months and then have to, file a, expedited reinstatement claim, which is not really that difficult sometimes than filing a whole new claim, which who wants to do that, right? So I don't have insults to say about Ticket to Work. Maybe they should be very clear, but I feel like it is clear on the website. Like if you're trying to get back to work and be self-sustaining without SSD, that's what I think it says. Maybe I'll do a video on that and show the page. That's why I tell my people, don't even do that unless you want to get off, which is great if you start to feel better. But why would you do that now? You're completely not able to sustain that kind of work. RD says he has epilepsy and a lot of other medical issues. He's trying to advocate for himself, but getting the runaround from the SSA. Well, what do you mean the runaround? He files a claim or he doesn't. You know what I mean? That's just what he's going to do. It's not really a runaround. It can be silly things like what I was talking about. I don't know if you were here in the beginning, Dolphin, but it was like not processing the attorney representation forms in terms of connecting me to the ERA and my client's case is roaring on without me being able to see in the electronic file. And I'm mad. So they heard a little bit of my scathing, and I will be being a little bit more vociferous with others doing the same thing going forward. So, in fact, I was working on a second one when I had to start this. T-Cash. Okay, that's the webinar. Good. Well, technically, I should be done by 3 p.m. If I go a little over T-Cash, don't let that hold you up. I mean, I think it would be good for you to go watch it. If you wanted, let me know what they said or what your interpretation is, how you understood it, honestly. And then maybe we could share that to people. Good idea. Elliot says, I used VR, vocational rehab, to help me get bioptics. Google it. Google it. So you could see better, obviously. So I could get my driver's license as a blind person. Now the SSA thinks I'm trying to go back to work, but I might not. Well, I'm curious about what they say is follow the rules of the VR. Why don't you ask the VR people, what does that mean? Because they said that I might lose my benefits if I work with you. So what does that mean? What are the rules that they're referring to? Maybe ask them, because maybe it is just a matter of keep it under SJ, or yeah, maybe that's what it is. And you probably already know that anyway, right? I mean, that's really not something you're not aware of. Internship could be good for you, Elliot, since you really can't earn much. But, you know, you got to be careful, too. I'm the one with narcolepsy, high user, and sleep, oh my God, 15 to 24 hours a day. Wow. I applied SDT years ago. How do I find my DLI? You either call them and wait on hold or whatever, and then ask them. Or if you know how to figure it out from your earnings statement that you want to get a recent, like as of today version of, that you can get at ssa.gov. And by signing into your own SSA portal. Or we do a service. It's not that expensive. I think it's under $25. And then we calculate it, but you have to get us the earnings statement from the SSA. People can even take, if they only have a phone, they can even take snapshots as long as they give us all the years, say. It's got to be of everything, nothing, you know, from now going back. So it could be multiple snapshots, but and then we could generally figure it out from there. It's like a chart. You can, like, I always make a little chart and count backwards. Do they ever use self-reported but not yet filed income to determine DLI? No, because you have to have reported it, and that would report your tax liabilities and stuff. Because remember, it's through those Schedule C, self-employment income. You have to pay the Social Security taxes for yourself, like every worker does, but they only have to pay half because the employer pays half. You and I have to pay the other half on our own income. So we're paying the full 12-point-something% just for Social Security. That's doesn't even take into account what we pay in income tax, right? Yeah, no. So it's not until, and sometimes they will ask you, if you never notice on the application, they ask you guys, what'd you earn in this year and last year? And that is so that they can get a gauge as to, even though they don't have it officially from the IRS yet, because maybe you didn't file your 25 in it. And even if you did file with the IRS, doesn't mean the SSA gets it that fast. I think they're working on getting that stuff faster, but it used to be like coming yearly. So if you worked in, you know, early 2025 for a little bit and you needed that one credit, it might not show up until after they did it. They used to do it in batch runs, I think in like October. I don't even know what they do now. So I think they take that into consideration, maybe, that you will have more credits put on there. I can't say for sure because I've never really come across the problem where someone wasn't insured. Well, I have had the problem, but not really at that stage, I don't think. And I would probably be sure to say in the remarks, My last credits are not showing up yet because I haven't filed the return yet, but I earned this much money. My estimated income that I will be reporting, like it's net income from self-employment. That means after the business expenses you choose to deduct. And I will tell you right here, user, I have a video on that in case you're like most people, we are like hardwired to try to reduce our taxes as much as possible and report every business expense that's legitimate. Sometimes it's better not to report all of them that you could, but don't have to, because you want to get all 4 credits. If you're still in a battle, get all 4 credits, try to do the same next year. It only requires something less than $9,000 for the whole year that you pay the taxes on now. So sometimes I'm like, don't even write off business expenses, because if that's going to drop you down, because some people write them all off. They're like, well, I made 10,000, but 9,000 was expenses, which can definitely happen. I'm like, okay, guess what? You got 0 credits for that 1,000 you declared as net income self-employment, because you have to hit the minimum of the 1 credit to get the 1 credit, then another full amount for the 2nd credit, or else you're still going to get the 1. So you got to think it through and go high. I did the math. I think I might have had I don't remember the amount. For self-employed, because they only count like 92.35% of our income for Social Security, you really need to earn more than what a W-2 person would have to earn to get the credits. Oh, she's yawning. Anyway, it gets a little complicated. I think I have the video on that. If I did, it's probably going to be called something obvious like, I don't know, self-employed or taxes. I should make sure that it's in the title, which I try to do, but anyway, do that with care. Wild Dog Media. First time here. Hi, Wild Dog. I hit the like button on the way in. Well, thank you. That's very sweet. That's very polite. Which, that's really nice. User says, as to the above message, I mean self-reported self-employment income for prior years not yet filed with IRS. Okay. For prior years, you're gonna have a time, there's a statute of limitations, if you will. It's the 3-3-15 rule. That means if you don't report those obviously defunct Social Security earnings years within 3 years, 3 months, and 15 days from when the year ended that they were applicable to, the IRS, the SSA will not give you credit for that. And I will say this, if you have a remote DLI or something about to expire, it's a very good possibility that the SSA may want to scrutinize your self-employment to make sure you're not fabricating. Think about it. You could just say, come up with $10,000, come up with a tax on $10,000, say you made it, tax on $10,000 federally, you're going to pay nothing because we have that terrific, huge deduction we have now. So you're not even going to pay federal taxes. And state is another story. I know my state, nails you anyway. They'll give you that little safety valve there, and local. But so just make sure that you have documented, show in your bank account that you're getting this money in during that last year. So they know that you weren't just trying to make it up to get credits now. Because obviously it would be worth it paying $2,000 now to get 4 credits. That means you could get your SSD, which could be $2,000 a month, for the potentially the rest of your life. Wild Dog says, what could it mean when the SSA says to my brother, there's a lot more money here, you need an attorney? The county hospital provided a company that filed his successful. That's a very weird statement. Who said that? Someone at the field office? I will say this, the company that they probably provided, not necessarily, but a lot of times there are companies that get paid a salary regardless of whether they win or lose for your brother. So they don't really have a lot of skin in the game. So we might want to, they're like paper filers. That's pretty much it. So you might want to make sure you get someone who actually practices it versus just files papers, win, lose, or draw, and gets paid no matter what. Elliot says, where do I email you about the internships, or how do I contact you? Go to, do it this way. I'll know who you are when you say your name. Go to assistant@joydisability.com. Liz will probably respond, but she'll send it to me. Okay. And again, that'll be something you and I create together, if that will work. So we'll have to see. Hello from California. But I will say this, Elliot. We can design it so it works with your, I think you have a disability claim, right? You have benefits. You know, you could definitely make sure those hours are not, you know, showing anything inappropriate, you know, and legitimately so. I would never ever pull a fast one like that, because I hate when people do that. Christina's in the house. Hi from California. Hi, Christina. Thank you for visiting. Just making it so far. Hey, how are you doing? I'm doing great, thanks. I got a remand from the AC. Awesome. That's the appeals council, guys. So he got denied at ALJ and appealed to the appeals council, and he's one of the minority of appeals council appealers who got remanded. Wondering what I should do now since my lawyer dropped me after my ALJ hearing. The VE already said no job. Well, you want to get another one, I think, for sure. If you want us to take a look at it, I don't know your category. But if you want us to, go to that joydisability.com, click on the upper left-hand link for a free eval. They'll look at it. They'll tell you right away if we have an opening or not. If we do have an opening, they're going to shove it right over to me, and I'll be calling you, and we can discuss. All right. Dolphin says, thank you. Should I mention I am his sister? I will encourage him to message you. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Oh, you're not saying, you said I should mention I'm his sister. That's awesome. And you have a twin brother then, right? I will encourage him to message you. I truly appreciate you. I appreciate you too. And thanks for being here, everybody. I wouldn't be here if you all weren't here, for sure, Thank you for your show. You were very informative. Thank you, T. Cash. And I really like the fact you don't do clickbait. Yep. It's against my religion. Like the other two famous YouTubers, it's getting ridiculous, like SSA going to go out of business tomorrow. I know. But you know what? Fear pays. So, it's really sad, T. Cash. I hear you. David says, reconsideration is hopeless. I don't think so, depending on your case. It really depends on the case. We get a lot of recon overturns. I will say that it's generally for people that are usually over 55. And obviously not all of them are going to get a recon overturn. It really depends on how proactive they are and hitting up the really pointed things. And it also depends on who their adjudicator is. So there's always the wild card of the adjudicator. Some just seem more listening. They're probably just more competent, I guess. You're gonna have, anywhere you go, you're gonna have more competence, and but I would definitely do reconsideration. If you have a lawyer, hopefully he's gonna do it automatically. LaRocha says, are resources counting as income or as property? Autos. Yes, resources are money and things and contracts. They're items, as opposed to income, which is what comes in the door every day or every month, if anything. So if you're a job making $200 a month, that's going to be $200 of income, which is fine. When they calculate the SSI, a little bit will come off the top, maybe $100 because you earn 200. Still worthwhile to earn the 200. But the assets, the countable resources, they call it, Your first auto doesn't count, by the way. The home you live in doesn't count if you own it. But if you own a second place that you don't live in, it's an investment property. And that would be considered accountable resources. Countable resource. And if the countable resources hit 2,000, you're not eligible for SSI at all, because you could use 1,000 of that to pay your next month's thing. So SSI is not going to give it to you. Second, you bring that down and stay down, then you can get your SSI again. I hope that explained there, Lavocha. Ralph Barkley is in the house. Hi, Ralph. I'm only 1 or 2 points from getting SSDI, and they gave me SSI. I just didn't file it a couple of years ago. I was a single parent. What should I do? Well, you can't get the SSDI. What do you mean I didn't file? I don't know what that means. You mean you didn't file back when you were still insured for SSD? Well, here's a question. When you have a DLI, date last insured, you need to know it, you need to get it. I explained previously different ways to get it. That'll tell you when when you filed for SSI and what date you said your alleged onset date was. I don't know what you said your alleged onset date was, but if you picked a date that was after you ran out of insured status because you hadn't been paying for the premiums anymore, then you got to have any time period when you actually could have won adjudicated. If you really were disabled back then and you just used the wrong date, that actually could be a period of time you could seek to claim now and say, I was actually disabled here. Here's an SSD for this time period. If they haven't already adjudicated. If you did do the old time period and they said, well, we don't think you were disabled back when you were still insured, then you ran out of insurance, but we find you, now in, February of 2026, and you did have an SSI claim in, which you did, which was very smart of you, then you can't go and try to rehash what's already been determined and probably final at this point, the SSD. But only 1 or 2 points from getting SSDI, that's going to start being more and more that you have to get the SSDI, because the credits you have from 10 years ago are scrolling off the board this year. So those 4 are going to be gone. If you're not replacing them all, you are going to be, you're off. You've already done it because you're 1 or 2 points away. But if you start earning your 4 credits a year doing something that's not inconsistent with your SSD, it will affect your SSI in terms of the amount you get. And you want to be very kind of careful how you do it, because you want to always tell them what you're making. You want to keep it kind of low. I would say work enough to get the credits and don't work more than that. It will take away, a chunk of your SSI, but you'll make twice as much of the money. So it's always a 2 for 1. So you're always going to be bringing home more. That gives you more money. And you just can't save it because it's SSI, right? And you will eventually be SSDI insured. And then just make sure you continue with your really robust treatment, because you will be, when you file for SSDI, they might not, I know there's rules on res judicata, but now that it's in a new time, a new day, that they haven't adjudicated you for SSI because they only do that periodically, it could be a reason for a CDR. So they're going to make sure you're still disabled, and if you are, they'll pop you on the SSDI. So make sure your evidence remains strong. Don't slack off on what you did that proved your SSI. And if you have new conditions, tack them on there. And then you almost can't fail but get SSDI if you do it right. And goodness knows it's so much better. You get Medicare. You can keep all your earnings now if you keep the job. You don't have to give up half to the SSA or through SSI. You can get married to a rich person. And you can, what else? Win the lottery. Inherit money. Inherit a house. All sorts of wonderful things. Ricardo says, you're a gifted and chosen individual, very wise. I don't know about all that, but that is that would be such a blessing if I had that great fortune. Thank you, Ricardo. You're very kind to me. LaRocha says, regarding above post, what counts as resources to qualify for SSI versus SSDI? Assume everything counts as a resource until you find that it does not. And there's a website on the SSA.gov site. It's pretty easy. I mean, if you just Google SSI resources, it'll bring you right there. Obviously, cash does. Assume everything does except first car, house you live in, if you own it. All bank accounts are going to cash, so don't make sure you don't have any that you forgot about, or that you just happen to have your name on it so that you can write checks for your child when they're out of town. You know, people do, you know, a lot of things like that that are fine when we're not filing for welfare, but it's not fine if you are. Let's just see. Obviously, SSDI, you can be loaded and have all those things. There's no asset restriction because SSDI is insurance that you bought. SSI is supplemental security income. It is just the welfare disability program for people that either didn't work or haven't worked recently enough or didn't work enough at all to become insured for Social Security. They didn't pay the premiums sufficiently. Slathering says, did I do that right? As far as chiropractors, I remember watching my dad go to them for years, and he only got worse until he was disabled and had to have surgery. I don't think they're helpful to impairments and all. Oh, I agree. Absolutely. They are they're not going to prevent degeneration, I don't think. Like disease, you know, like degenerative disc disease. They say it's a disease. I don't think orthopedics, I don't think PT will help that either. Could make it feel better, though, than it would if you didn't go. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not going to cure you. I don't think it's a cure. It can be a alleviating the discomfort or the pains even as it progresses, but it doesn't stop it from progressing. Yeah. So I agree with you 200% there, Slab. May I call you Slab? I noticed Kosher did. Okay, please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Thank you, Christina. Christina is always so head of the pack, helpful. Slab says, seems more like a pseudoscience to me, but I don't know. See, that's what we used to kind of say back, like when I was coming out of college. I remember a friend of mine going to chiropractic school. I had worked with him in restaurants when we were teenagers. Like we were bus kids, you know, bussing tables. At Larison's Turkey Farm, anybody from Jersey or New York, Larison's Turkey Farm, if you remember it, I used to work there back in the 80s. And I might have even done it for a few months in the 90s. But anyway, yeah, he became a chiropractor. And I remember something funny he said to me, and I was like, oh, man, no. Because I was like, you know, like I said, chiropractors had a reputation for being, I'm not even saying it was deserved. It was just something that got around. Ambulance chasers. And again, we're talking a long time ago. And the whole field has come along in leaps and bounds. And I'm telling you, Slab, some people that are not, I don't know, a lot of people swear by theirs. So it's not something I would poo-poo if I was uncomfortable myself. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't go see what's wrong with you, though, right? Like, see if it's degenerative and all that. Oh, those dogs. Please share the live stream. Yeah, that's a good idea. Thank you, Christina. Wild Dog Media says, yes, field office SSA agent in Dallas. 5K to what? No. Are you just talking about a regular case? Wild Dog? Wait, hold on. What did you say? I'm just scrolling up, guys. Most do not charge a retainer. And it can't be if they charge a retainer, which is legal to do for an SSDI representative, you can charge a retainer, but it's got to be retained. And they can't just go and bill at the end of the case or all along and start taking out of it. That would be very illegal. They could probably get disbarred for filing a federal Social Security rule on fees. And most do not charge a retainer because presumably there's going to be back benefits, and they're going to get it the normal contingent way. Contingent meaning they're only going to get it if they win, which is probably the only way they're going to get it with a fee petition anyway, asking for a fee that's not based on the contingent fee agreement. But I want to see that your other thing said, well, dog, hold on. Oh, that's the SSI agent said there's a lot more money. That's interesting. Maybe just saying you should get an attorney so you have a better chance of prevailing. You know, like you don't really necessarily know all the rules and how to build the evidence and stuff, and you need someone to kind of tell you what would be your best evidence to pursue and all that. You know what I'm saying? So again, do not think you have to raise $5,000 if you just have a standard, you're filing for Social Security, Disability, or SSI. I don't know any SSD person who actually practices robustly that would ever charge a retainer for that, ever. And I mean it. There's like, that's not what's done. So whoever you talk to that said 5,000, I bet you it's not a highly practicing SSD attorney, which means they probably don't know squat. They're probably very light on information and tacking it on to whatever they're trying to accomplish in another field. As the redheaded stepchild, as they said. Or as I say, anyway. Oh, thank you, Wild Dog. Wild Dog subscribe. That's awesome. David Kuhn, you're welcome. Wild Dog says I got my brother to subscribe to. It's rough out here. Oh, yeah, every Wednesday. It's like a little late lunch hour. Does it matter if self-employed income is passive as opposed to actual labor? Yes, it can. But it depends what you mean by passive. If by self-employment income, you mean I had an old car, one, and I sold it for $2,000, and I had, or whatever. Passive, if it's truly passive, it shouldn't be self-employment income. You should be reporting it in another way, possibly investment income, in a way that you're not paying wage tax on. You're not paying self-employment tax. But again, if you need, were you saying you needed credits? If you need the credits, you're going to want to report work activity as self-employment income. What would be passive? Investment income, you know, where you're not doing any of the work, and you're not managing it, right? But yeah, if you just report it as investment income in that way in taxes where there's no payroll tax, then you're not going to get those credits. So yes, you have to report it as something where you're paying, you know, wage taxes on it. Hey, Delia. Wanted to make sure I clarify on driving. I meant going for Target pickup 1 mile down the street where they put items in the car getting out of the house. Is this in follow-up to something else? Did I miss a question, Delia? Did you message me in the portal? Am I getting confused? Yeah, but Delia brings up an interesting point that I could probably veer off of here. With regard to shopping or driving, guys, on your function report, even though you drive, maybe somewhat, if you drive very limited now compared to what you did before you were impaired, you could say, yes, I drive. You know what I do? I have my clients say yes and no. I advise them, it's yes, I drive short distances. No, I no longer can drive the long distances, if that's the case. Put it in there. They're not going to know that otherwise. And the other thing I saw from that question of Dear Delia's was going to, okay, so for shopping, you go shopping. It's very close. It's a mile down the street. And they load the car. So it's like special order type of thing. Pick up where they load the car. Specify that in the shopping question on the function report. Because if you just say, yes, I shopped, and it's for 45 minutes because you're coming and going, whatever. But really it's 10 minutes getting there, 10 minutes getting back, 10 minutes waiting for them to bring out your groceries and load your car. and whatever, that'll be a half-hour thing. But you know what I'm saying? Make it clear that you are not cruising through the supermarket. I think it's a very important one to give it, in short phrases so you can fit it, but explain how your shopping is not like what you used to do, because otherwise it's going to be presumed that you're shop till you drop. Oh, Delia. Maybe subject to talk about. Oh, and I did, Delia. Yeah, it was good because those are things that we see a lot. Oh, it's okay. We discussed it in an email. Okay. Are we all clear on it then? Are you working on a function report, by the way? I don't know where you're at. You're already done, right? Kosher says, yep, dividends, unearned, past songbook royalties, earned. The royalties are tricky. You say that very well, Kosher. Well, obviously for SSI, it doesn't matter where you get the income from. But past songbook royalties, that is one that trips up all of us. We have to keep reading it because it's like, and for some particular tests, it's when you receive it. For others, I think there's a reference to something about, did you earn it now? I mean, if you receive it now, but you did the work last year, do you know what I mean? And then, yeah, it's someone's vacuuming. That is bizarre. I can't get my kids to do squat. I did do a little arrangement, somewhat of a bribe. They're old enough. I mean, they're gonna have their own places soon. So, yes, I did. It involved money. It always does to get them to clean more, and not by paying them for cleaning specifically. Okay. Does SSA consider, this is user again, does SSA consider an applicant's situation, physical limitations, homelessness, lack of transportation, when there are gaps in treatment during the application? Right? Yes, they do. But you best keep those gaps short so try to still get a ride, like you might not get it to every appointment that you would easily want to have in the time frame you want to have it, but showing that you're trying. I would, physical limitations might, unless you're where someone needs to carry you or wheelchair you, that'll be tougher. Homelessness usually comes with lack of transportation. That will be tougher. Lack of insurance is often tougher because you can't afford it, but you probably have Medicaid, right? I say keep the gaps as short as possible because it's not going to it doesn't excuse the need to have sufficient evidence. All right. It's never going to say, well, he doesn't have to meet the same evidence standards as someone else, because what it does is explains why you don't have it here. So that lack of it isn't itself a bar. You see what I'm saying? It's not to say that you were better during this time period. So you still have to have all the evidence somewhere else before and after that shows you're disabled. It's just that when a judge might, for instance, and here's what would be directly implicated. If you have the gaps, let's say you have 9 months, one visit to see your PCP, 6 months, these gaps, those are pretty significant. You have a better chance. The judge is going to look at it, and if he wants to award you, because he knows you're disabled now, because after those 9 months, you finally got a roommate that drives you around or whatever, you got a good caseworker that manages it for you. He knows you're disabled now, but you applied 2 years ago for SSI, let's say, or SSD, it doesn't matter. And you kind of want that back pay because that can make a huge difference. You can buy your own car, you can pay off your mortgage or pay it down. If you have to spend down for SSI, there's some great things to spend on that help you in the future, and you properly spend it versus peeing it away. So the judge could say, if he doesn't have a reason to think that you had there's no valid reason why he didn't go. He just didn't go. He must have been feeling pretty good for those months. Maybe he was working under the table. Who knows? He would say, all right, he's disabled since 2 months ago. Very few back, no back benefits if it's SSD. If you show those gaps, and then there's robust stuff before then, and then the gaps, and you explain those gaps. And I would do it before you go to hearing. I would put it in the application, or if you have it anywhere. I would even put it in probably, if I'm going through a time period, I would probably send a letter to my adjudicator and just say, because then it'll be in the file that you're reporting, like, I'm trying to get to the doctor to get you more evidence, but I'm having trouble getting a ride. My friend has been out of town for a few months who used to drive me, and blah, blah. Or, and if you're homeless, for sure, like truly homeless, again, physical limitations has really more to do that you don't have someone to transport you because of your physical limitations. So it's all kind of wrapped up together, but I would make that be known so that when it comes up later, it's not like you just saying it at hearing, like, oh, I was homeless, Josh, and I left. You know, he's going to see that you said that a year ago, and then it's more credible because you explained it back when it was relevant, when you're not actually getting the treatment. So just an idea. Okay. Tanya says, all right, we're at the 2-hour mark, guys. So as soon as I'm done with these questions, we will split. I just checked my Social Security account. It now says we have made a decision to approve. Oh, we just got a live winner. That's awesome, Tanya. I'm so happy for you. That's awesome. That's just so good. That's what we like to hear. That's terrific. Well, don't be a stranger, even though you've breached the mountain. Please come visit the live stream and watch the support the daily 12 o'clocks, because they do a lot for our 1% to 5% people. Delia says, clear and not working on anything SSD related. I'm due out from mine, which you helped me with, by the way. Well, that was, yeah, I appreciate. I get it. I get it. Hi, Ralph. Yeah, we have consultation services. So if you go to that same website, joydisability.com, and look in the upper right corner instead of the upper left corner, that's where the link is for prepaid consultation. So feel free. Those are actually kind of fun. And you can do Zoom or we do phone, whatever you prefer. You're welcome, Delia. Thanks for visiting. Always. Gregory Petty says, since I have an online Social Security account on the SSA website, will SSA notify me about my scheduled CDR next month via my own? I don't know. Do any of you guys know if they're doing that for you folks? Anybody? Anybody go through a CDR? It'd be more recent, since that's more of a recent technology that they've been using. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'd like to know if they're gonna, if they are, keeping that appraisal with you. Inquiring minds would like to know, Gregory. I know, because you're like hanging on the edge of your seat. I can tell, Gregory, because you have a scheduled CDR next month, but you don't know if they're really going to have, are they delayed? Are things going off on time? Right? Make sure you treat now. Treat. Sound like the bird when I say that, right? Chirp, chirp. Tweet. Treat. Oops. Slav says, oops, he's just talking to Gregory. Sorry, don't mean to interrupt. Let's see. Oh, he's telling them where. Hold on, I got to go up and see this. I just did one. It will show up in your account at the top as something you need to do that can be done online. Do you guys get texts when they put something in there so you know to go check? Do they say? Or do they email you like, there's something in your SSA account you should look at? Curious. Slab goes on to say they add little squares at the top like tabs, and it will show up as a tab when you need to do it. Oh. That's awesome. So my remaining question, Slab, is do they text you when they change something up there? Do they do that? All right, this looks to be the last question, kids. My physical limitation is primarily that I can't wake up. Yeah, the narcolepsy, right? And miss many appointments. Thanks for advice on letter to the adjudicator about gaps. That's great. I'll do that. That's what I would do. Well, you have probably a neurologist for the narcolepsy. Hopefully those medical records talk about how utterly egregious it is. I mean, I'm assuming you don't. Are you like sleeping like the dead? Like an alarm clock doesn't work, so you can't even wake yourself up with an alarm clock. That's scary. There, user. L Rule says, is there a booklet or something they give out? I don't understand anything. Who's they? And if you're talking about just any of the information we're talking about, go to ssa.gov and start looking around. Like if reading works better for you, which I totally understand it. I mean, I'm kind of a visual person myself. I mean, I can learn from listening as long as I'm not, bored. And then even like people have blogs and stuff, I will say, well, it won't be the same, but I was going to say, we have some blog stuff, but it really isn't. If you're trying to learn something from scratch from the beginning, you almost want to buy a treatise, like we would use for, in a law practice. If we were just coming up, learning it. There are courses, so or you just spend your time, digging through what's available online, which is what we all can do now, but it's a little harder because you don't know where to look and which, So that says they text you sometimes, but I don't remember if it's about that or not. Probably to let you know you have a message if you're selected to get text. Everyone should select to get text. You may as well, I think. Hopefully they're consistent. Oh, emails. Slab is saying emails, not text. Really? Why don't they text? You get emails. I wonder if they could do both. That would be even better, right? So in case it, Rule says, my husband lost his job. I'm not working and can't. I'm applying for disability, maybe SSI. Okay, well, fingers crossed for you. I'm sorry your husband lost his job. That's makes it really hard. Which might make, depending on what you guys have own in the bank and stuff, might make you eligible for SSI. If they legally find you disabled. Otherwise, it would just be SSD. So hopefully you still have insured status. Find out your DLI and download before you apply. Download your Social Security earnings statement from your SSA online account. Because if you wait until after you apply, you're not going to be able to see your estimate of what your benefit will be. They wipe that side off. And you can still get your earnings, but and find your DLI out too. I explained it above, the different options for that. You want to know your DLI going into it because it can play a role in a few things that you might strategize with going forward. Slaz says, thanks for the info. I wonder if the bird, do you have a scary face, by the way? I think you have a scary face, right? I wonder if the bird thinks you are talking to it the whole time. Probably, right, Tasha? Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she probably does. Although maybe not because she's like not being interactive. I don't know. User says she doesn't even bother with alarms anymore. Is that because they didn't work for you? Like you didn't even hear them? And do you fall asleep like sitting at the table sometimes? Just is it that kind of, what do they call that when that happens? It's almost like a seizure, right? And you barely worked. Is that because of the narcolepsy? I had a narcolepsy case. They're not very common. There's a young person too. We did win. I drove all the way to West Virginia for that one many years ago. I was actually visiting North Carolina, so I wanted the hearing on the way through. I was trying to arrange things like that. More bang for the buck, you know? It's from the Twilight Zone movie. There's a Twilight Zone movie. Is it new? I used to love the Twilight Zone. I still watch it. I think it's cool when it's black and white, like the old ones. So much fun to watch the old stuff. It really is. Like, I miss it. It's like a whole different era compared to the craziness of the world today. Yeah. L Rule says, I wish I could sleep, right? So here, user can't stop sleeping and you don't have enough. Isn't that nuts? Deli says the bird's going to start saying, treat, treat, treat. Treat, treat, treat. You itching yourself? I was a little worried. She's got like pin feathers coming out of her head. And I was nervous because it seems like she's been having these pin feathers forever. It seemed like a very long time. She's on 1 foot now. And so I did a little research, and they're not unhealthy. It's just that they can't preen their own heads. And I don't recommend that you try to do it because you get damaged. And those pin feathers are, I guess, filled with blood. Unlike, not to the same way that other feathers are, I guess. RD says, do they do CDRs when you're 60s? Yes, they do. Barring any, working or whatever, the chance of failing it, I think, are slim. And I think they do far less of them in the 60s because maybe some people get onto the 5 to 7 year diary because by the time they're there, they've degenerated further and the SSA recognizes them, the chances of recovery are even less. So it's not horrible, but yeah, they do it. They definitely do it. Oh, 1985. Okay, so that still wasn't the original. That's like teenage years, right? That sounds like fun. I'll have to go check it out. I wonder if it's on Netflix or Amazon Prime. Oh my gosh, user falls asleep when sitting on the toilet. Now, would you fall asleep if you were walking? What would happen? Is that like when you don't fall asleep, or would that eventually, you couldn't do that all day? No. Just curious. User is 55. That greatly helps your case. So you're in the best boat you can be. Yeah. If you have a lawyer, it's because they have confidence in it. So you're probably in good hands. But if 55 user, unless you're Superwoman, you probably have some aches and pains. Degeneration. We all do. I mean, I got a few years on you, and I definitely do. I don't exercise enough, too. I'm very sedentary. It's very bad. I used to be a total jock, too. But the job, and then my making excuses, of course. L Rule says, don't hurt yourself falling off the toilet. I know. So if you bang your head on the toilet or on the bathtub, that's usually, for a lot of people, right next to it, unless you're in a single, not a, what do they call that? Not in a 1.5 or something like that. User says she has hurt herself badly falling off toilet. 2 black guys in stitches. Oh my goodness. If your evidence is showing all this stuff, I don't think you have a good case. That's crazy. Oh, user. You guys have padding now on the walls on the outside. Carpeting. And on the toilet, which is weird, right? At least one of those like this. Maybe have regular carpeting, so if you fall, and then have the little toilet carpet over there. So, the boys in there, what they do. You might catch some of that. Pillows. L Rule suggests pillows. User has fallen asleep while walking. Do you keep walking? Is it like sleepwalking at that point? Or do you stop walking and crumble to the ground? Or user busted her chin on the carpet? Oh my gosh. You have to have a toilet in the ground, like a bidet. The ones that were like, I don't know what to do. That is, I'm so sorry. Okay, going back to the movie, the Twilight Zone. Slav says you can watch that through Prime. Believe it or not, that's Dan Aykroyd in the pic. Is it really? Yeah, I'd never know it. Because it's pretty scary. See you guys later, I said. Thank you. Talk to you later. See you next week. Maybe. All right, guys. I think we're good to go. Good chat. Good questions. It helped everybody. Wednesdays, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Come visit us. Say hi to everybody. And put in your questions if you have them. You can really come a little early if you want and post it in advance if that is easier. Gets you in certainly early, and then you probably want to be the one that starts so you can hear your answer. If not, there's always going to be a replay that comes out, and I've been doing them in segments so that whatever questions are in that segment are kind of in the description. And then maybe one of them is in the title because I don't give that much space, but that way people don't have to sit through the whole thing to find a particular area. Hoping it's helpful. And of course, the 12 p.m. recordeds, guys, those are where the replays come out, as well as other videos. That is really helpful. So I'd appreciate feeling your support there too, because that is what supports the whole mission of the channel. The channel has a whole different mission separately from what we do with the practice. It brings in certain people to the practice that we might not otherwise be able to represent. Largely because we have waitlisted categories, and they tend to be categories that some attorneys don't take at all. We do, but we have to keep everything balanced so we can stay in practice. So cases that might take 7 years, you kind of have to not take too many of those. But it definitely has changed the trajectory of that tremendously since we started doing this channel. So, and the recorders are what support that. There's really no gain from the live streams, except that I just enjoy it so much. And I do appreciate being able to chat with people that are not just my clients, and the more open, kind of friendly chit chat it's my big social time of the week. So totally enjoy it on this side, and I appreciate when it helps somebody and they let us know the information. So anyway, definitely share the live streams as well, and I hope to see you guys next Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And feel free, if you ever need a question answered, put it on under any video. You can put it, even if it's not related to that video, but just pops in your head. I will answer it if it's answerable. If it's video worthy, because I think it might be useful for other people, I will also do a video. Okay. So anyway, I appreciate that. I'll talk to you guys later. Have a great week. Bye-bye. Say goodbye, Tosh.